We're seeing tensions escalate after the Pentagon said that a Russian fighter jet clipped a U.S. spy drone and forced the U.S. to down it. The dangerous encounter happened yesterday over the Black Sea. The U.S. says that a Russian jet dumped fuel on the drone several times, then clipped its propeller, which forced the U.S. to down it into the water nearby. They're still working to recover it this morning, actually. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the confrontation is reckless.
And we don't want to see this war escalate beyond what it already has done to the Ukrainian people. And so this was inappropriate, unsafe, unprofessional conduct by the Russian pilots.
After that happened, the U.S. summoned Russia's ambassador to the State Department. You can see him here. He was going in. He was there for about 30 minutes. He claimed there was no collision, and the U.S. has been warned not to enter U.S. airspace as this war is raging on in Ukraine.
This drone can carry a few bombs. You see that what will be reaction of United States if you see such Russian drone very close, for example, to San Francisco or New York? What will be reaction of United States? For me, it's clear.
Those were comments he made after leaving the State Department yesterday. Again, that's the Russian ambassador to the U.S. All of this comes as President Vladimir Putin is about to make a public appearance any moment now. We're waiting to see if he weighs in on the drone incident. Our national security reporter, Natasha Bertrand, is tracking this developing story for us. Natasha, I know that the U.S. says, these interceptions happen all the time, but the way this happened, this kind of contact between the Russia and the U.S. militaries, it's the first we've seen of something like this grave. What else do we know?
Yeah, Caitlin, and of course it comes at a very sensitive time between the U.S. and Russia, right? Obviously, they are both operating in the region, and the potential for escalation and miscalculation is very high. So what we're learning is that the Russian fighter jets kind of tracked this drone for about 30 to 40 minutes over the Black Sea in international waters before coming close to the drone and actually dumping fuel on it, and then going behind the drone and making contact with its propeller, causing the drone to essentially become inoperable and forcing the U.S. military to then take it down over international waters. Now, the U.S. is saying that this was extremely incompetent, essentially. They're saying that the pilots lacked competence and that they were reckless and dangerous. The big question, however, is was this just a maneuver, an unsafe maneuver by the pilot itself, or was this something that actually came from the Kremlin? The Pentagon is not saying at this moment. However, they are warning the Russians in very stark terms that this kind of behavior can cause an escalation that could draw the two countries into a conflict. The Pentagon saying that there was no communication directly between the U.S. and the Russians while this confrontation actually occurred, which is raising questions, of course, about whether those lines of communication are operating properly, Caitlin.
Yeah, obviously a concern if they're not even talking to each other. We know the U.S. is working to recover this, but what is the concern that officials have if Russia gets there first?
Yeah, so it's unclear whether the U.S. will actually even be able to recover this. We are told that there are no naval assets in the Black Sea at this moment that are working to recover it. But the White House has said that they have taken steps to protect their equities. They would not go any further than that, but implying essentially that they are taking steps to prevent the drone from falling into Russian hands. Now, the Pentagon press secretary was asked about this yesterday, whether the Russians have been themselves trying to get a hold of the drone, which again fell into the Black Sea. They would not go there, but what we are told is that they are taking all possible steps to prevent sensitive technology, of course, this drone, from falling into the Russian hands, Caitlin.
Yeah, absolutely. Natasha Bertrand at the Pentagon, thank you.
Obviously something the White House is following. I'm going to get now to CNN's Priscilla Alvarez with the very latest reaction from the White House. What are they saying?
Well, President Biden was briefed on this just yesterday by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. But the through line, as you heard there from Natasha, has been that the conduct by the Russian pilots was, quote, inappropriate, unsafe, and unprofessional. That is what we have been hearing from the White House, as they've also stressed that intercepts in this region are common. But what was different and unique about this incident was just how unsafe it is. Now, the White House has also dismissed Russia's denial of the incident and said that they are taking steps, again, as you heard there, to protect their private equities, but not sharing much more than that. Now, of course, the administration has been in touch with allies, going so far as to also summon the Russian ambassador to the U.S. to relay those concerns. But the bottom line is really that the U.S. will not stop operating in this region. Don?
Is the White House hesitant to take further action against Russia here?
Now, of course, this comes at a critical time, and there's always risk of a dangerous escalation as this war continues. But they have stressed that they have those lines of communication, those diplomatic lines with Russia. We saw evidence of that just yesterday, again with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. And that is where they are right now. At risk, of course, is any escalation, and that is what they're trying to avoid.
All right, Priscilla Alvarez at the White House for us this morning. Thank you very much for that.
Let's talk a lot more about what has developed here. CNN military analyst, retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton is here. Cedric, morning. So explain to us what exactly the capabilities are of what is known as an MQ-9 Reaper drone. And do you understand what John Kirby is saying when he says they're working to, quote, protect the equities of it? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Poppy. Good morning to you. The whole business here is, of course, about sensitive intelligence. So the basic capabilities of the Reaper, it flies at up to 50,000 feet, so almost as high as that balloon that we shot down off the coast of South Carolina. But what it does is it's an intelligence collection platform. It can also be an armed platform, but in this particular case, I'm certain that it was an intelligence collection platform, supports strike missions, but mainly it's done for surveillance purposes. And one of the big things about this is that it has a range of about 1,150 miles. It can stay up for about 24 hours, and it has a big wingspan of 66 feet, so it's wider than a lot of aircraft, but it can do a lot of collection of different intelligence sources, specifically signals and imagery intelligence. So that's why it's a big deal to make sure that the Russians don't know exactly how good it is at collecting this kind of intelligence.
I was just going to say, do you have any insight into how the U.S. could remotely, if they don't get their hands on it first, how can they remotely protect all of that intelligence?
So one of the things that can happen, Poppy, is they can actually zeroize the equipment. So what they can do is they can take the cryptography that is associated with that and make it null and void in essence. So what that does is anybody who looks at that then won't be able to see what's been transmitted.
Okay.
But let's talk about how this all happened, because it's the details of what we're hearing from John Kirby that are also fascinating here, where he's saying, you know, and the other Pentagon officials, is that basically these Russian fighter jets were flying in front of the drone. They were dumping fuel on it before this even happened. You actually think it was a mistake that they clipped the wing, right?
Yeah, I do think that, Caitlin, and you know, the reason I think it was a mistake is, you know, when you look at the way in which these drones operate and the way in which the Russians fly their aircraft, they come really close to this. This is a picture of the drone as it's getting ready to take off. But what the Russians did was they went to this area right here, dumped fuel on this part, and then they moved back as the craft was flying, and they hit the propeller right there. So that was a key thing. When they did that, that made it impossible for the drone to fly, and the Air Force, which was operating this remotely, had no choice but to basically let it sink into the ocean and into the Black Sea, and they made it that way because they needed to clear it from the skies so that it wasn't a risk to other aviation assets.
I think what stands out to me is just looking at the drone. It's an enormous drone. Most people don't think of them being.
It's not like a household drone.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, take a look right here, Don. What you can see is it's about 36 feet in length. The wingspan is 66 feet. Compare that to the Russian fighter, which is a lot longer, but it has a shorter wingspan of only almost 50 feet, 48.2 feet. So what you're seeing there is really a relative comparison. This is a smaller aircraft, but it is a highly effective aircraft. These guys, though, can fly a lot faster than the Reaper can.
Hey, real quick, is that a typical size?
Yeah,
Average?
that's the average size of a Reaper right here, and of the fighter, that's about average for a fighter of that type.
It's all fascinating, Colonel. Thanks very, very much.
You bet.